Welcome everybody to the Magic Table. This is a place where JJ and I just have you around our magic table, and we just talk like we would around a dinner, maybe a beverage, and we're just hanging out talking about real life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So today, I don't know, we were just kind of talking in the car, honestly, a little bit earlier, just about how the world feels right now. And I was kind of explaining some of my maybe like grief. I'm new to this whole feelings thing, talking about some of my maybe grief or just like, I feel like there's an anxiety just like in the atmosphere. And you were saying that, this is something that you're seeing as well. So I figured probably people out there are experiencing the same thing, right? So let's talk about the world, what's going on, and how we can be people in this world.
Yeah, it feels like a tall order. We're trying to be people in this world.
Trying to be people in this world. So we were talking about just this, I don't know, feeling of something kind of in the air. Like the world just seems not okay. Is that how you would describe what you're kind of seeing out there? Okay. So the world's not okay. It feels like there's kind of thing upon thing happening, that like all of these like big things are going on in the world that we have no control over. And yet we're kind of like trying to have control over like our lives. And there's just a lot of lack of control, I feel like, right now.
Well, and I think there's just so many things happening that are compounded on each other. Like my first push back to you was like, because we're not supposed to know all of these things. I just think about like our parents when they were raising kids. If they wanted to know what was happening in the world, they read the newspaper or they watched the evening news.
Right.
Right. And that is it. And I think in our current world climate, whatever you want to call it, we don't think about the way that we are truly inundated with information that, my belief, our bodies and brains were not intended to like be inundated with.
Agreed. Yeah, and it's not only just information, it's stuff that it feels like we should have control. It's information we have no control over either.
Yes. But, and you are also supposed to have a stance,
yes,
and an opinion
right,
on everything happening in the world. And like, that is an unrealistic expectation.
Yes.
Here we are back. I'm like, as you were introing, I've made you
just expectations,
start exploring emotions. And we always talk about expectations.
Yeah, it's fair. Big.
And so I think what people aren't thinking about is the emotional energy that it takes to think about, to process what's coming in. How do I feel about it? Can I publicly say how I feel about it? Like, no one is surprised that we are in a wildly like divided time in the world politically. I think religion, like there's all this stuff going on. And yet each of us can feel a responsibility or an expectation that I need to have this all figured out.
Right.
So that when, I'm at the grocery store and someone asks me about this, which doesn't happen. A lot of the things that we prep for in our brain.
That is true.
Never actually happen.
Or it happens in text form via social media. And we're just like feeling like we're reading a bunch of stuff. Yeah. I mean, yes, it might happen, but like not in the places where we would want it to with actual conversations.
Yes. And so I think so many people just they're processing through so much. Like people are feeling overwhelmed. People are feeling disconnected. People are feeling real anxious. Like at the time of this recording, our government is currently shut down.
Yeah.
Like
kind of a big deal.
And I mean, I have clients who cannot see me because they have lost their job. I have clients that, due to the current status of the economy, have had to like move the frequency of their sessions. Like, yes, that has always been a part of the work that I do. People lose their job.
For sure.
Therapy is expensive. Just in my little corner of the world, I'm seeing in real time the impacts of some of these things as well. And so I think, how are we giving ourselves space to like feel the feelings, to put boundaries on what we're ingesting news, social media, those sorts of things, so that we have space to kind of process some of what is happening in the world.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. And like what we had talked about earlier is that maybe the first thing maybe our first task in all of this is just normalizing this for people before anything else.
Yes. And my assumption, I know people say make assumptions. That's really great. But I do think people listening are either feeling like, yes, I'm feeling that way, or like, what the heck are they talking about?
Right.
So I do want to normalize, like, if you are feeling this way, these are real feelings. There are real things going on in the world that have lead to this. I also, if you don't find yourself feeling some of those things, I think that's totally fine. And is it worth asking a couple more questions? Some curiosity about, am I being avoidant?
Mm.
Am I numb? Or have I chosen to isolate myself in a way, insulate myself in a way that, like, I'm not allowing any of these things to impact me?
Right. And just in case, I guess, so are you saying that we should be sort of feeling some of these things, I guess?
I think most humans should be feeling some, or over the past 6-9 months, year, have had that. I don't think everyone needs to stay in this anxious state.
Okay.
But if you're reflecting on the last, let's call it 5 years, COVID till today, and you have not had any of those anxious, nervous, what is happening in the world feelings, that is probably also worth exploring.
That's helpful. I appreciate you expanding it out that way. Because, I mean, couldn't you just have like really healthy boundaries and just you're not on social media or consuming any sort of news or those sort of like avoidant behaviors to some extent?
I mean, yes, I'm sure there are people in the world who are happy and healthy and have all of those things on lockdown. And I think there are a lot of people who kind of feel steady and stable, and then something happens either in the, like, globally, nationally, or in your own community that kind of you plop back over to that anxious side. And I think a lot of us, that's what we're doing. Like, we're not all living in this, like, I've been anxious for 5 years.
Right.
It's that I felt stable and then I was anxious again. And I felt stable and then this other thing happened. I just think the pace at which things are happening, we're not able to process any of them.
Yeah. Can you talk about that? Like, unpack that?
Sure. I always feel like I have to caveat, like, I'm one therapist, one clinician. This is my
all the caveats. Just blanket caveat.
Yeah. I just think the world is so heavy that we're not able to unpack any one event before the next grievous event happened. I literally cried the last time we talked about this 2 hours ago. And I think because, right, my work, this is all I do every day. And more having conversation around, I didn't get to process that last tragic event, and there was already another tragic event splashed across the news. Again, as humans, I don't think we were created to have the capacity to hold all the horror in the world. I don't know, like, is there more tragedy than there ever has been?
I was just going to ask that question, an unfair question.
Yeah, I don't know. Do I have more access
100%
to every tragedy that is happening in the world? And I think that is a distinction that a lot of people aren't making.
Yeah, 100 years ago, would you have known about an earthquake on the other side of the world, right? Or even...
Well, and maybe you would have, but not in real time.
It wouldn't be instant.
You wouldn't get a notification on the computer that you keep in your pocket that, updates you on all the tragic things that are happening.
That's fair.
And so I think we live in a time that this is so normalized that we're not taking the time to think about it.
Yes. Yes, I totally agree. I think I need to hear that. Like most of this is just us talking so I could like process some of my stuff, you know. Um, you talked about some things that you think we miss out on, like as people, like things that we're missing or like practices that we're missing. What are some of the things that you see that most people are missing out on that could like kind of help with some of this?
So some of it is just so basic and we forget.
Yeah.
Am I drinking water?
Mhm.
Am I eating food? And hopefully some of it is somewhat nutritious.
Oh, nutritious food?
You know, not all the time, but
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
we're not just eating French fries all the time.
So nonstop coffee and a nutritious food is what I should be doing, is what you're saying, right? I guess that's a no.
That's a no.
Okay.
They
all
can't
right.
see my eyes roll.
Okay.
And then moving your body. Stress gets stuck in our bodies. And you don't have to trust me. You can like Google that, and people with more education and experience can show the tie to stress in our bodies and like how we need to get that out of our bodies. And so can just be walking. Like this doesn't mean everybody has to go join a gym and become like a fitness guru. Are you walking in your neighborhood? Are you doing yoga from the free YouTube person doing yoga?
Yeah.
Are you connecting with people that are affirming to you and that like you can have fun with? Right? I think sometimes when we talk about community, it's like, what does connection look like? How are you, engaging with people, meaningful relationships? And like, that is important. And part of that is when we are together, we need like that deep belly laugh. We might need to sit and share a story and cry communally. Like some of this emotion needs to be processed, I think, together. And maybe that's with a partner or a friend. I'm not saying you need to like throw a party and then be like, let's all cry.
Although
You could.
might not be the worst idea in the world, honestly.
And I just think the togetherness also helps we all put blinders on and we get so stuck in what we are being consumed with. News, politics, religion, our social view. And like being with other people just makes us take the blinders off. Right?
Yeah, even if we're not like you're not saying have like hardcore discussions where you're like hashing this out. You're saying just like literally being around a
With
magic table.
other people and hearing about someone else is having a hard week. Someone else's kid's school has some stuff going on. So often, I think when we are feeling overwhelmed, we retreat inward and we get so caught up in our own stuff that being with another person and just realizing like, oh, there are other experiences besides what I'm having in this moment is healing and refreshing. Of, oh, I actually needed to know I'm not the only person who's ever walked through something hard. Oh, I need to know I'm not the only person who is carrying something heavy. I mean, even for me as a therapist, right? I have started this little therapist networking group. It is so good as a clinician to sit with other clinicians and say, this is happening at my practice, and to have someone else say, yeah, me too. So simple. And yet we are trying to create these like I guess circling all the way back to what should we be doing? It is simple things. This isn't shifting your life in wild ways.
Right.
It is making sure you are not isolating yourself, stuck in your head, and allowing your anxiety, depression, isolation to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah, I totally agree. How much of this is just our individualistic lives in general? Like even the meetups that we try to do, like you're talking about, that's an actual in-person meetup. It's not a Zoom call.
We actually sit at a table together
and drink coffee.
Lots
and lots of coffee, just like I said earlier.
And look at each other's faces.
Yeah.
And it's so helpful.
But we try to make this all really convenient, right? Like we start a Facebook group and like, oh, I can find community in this Facebook group. If I think they still do Facebook groups,
Sure.
probably. But we try to connect in convenient ways.
Yes.
And so in all of our like technology and trying to solve our isolation problem, we're using Chat GPT to like meet emotional needs. You know, we're trying all these things except for the one thing that humans have done since the beginning of humanity, which is just being with one another, right? And so we're trying to get around maybe the inconvenience of being with one another, or we've packed so much into our lives in so many places that like actually being with other human beings doesn't really fit. All of the above.
And it may make you access parts of the things you've been trying to avoid. Part of our conversation earlier was I was talking about, I think sometimes we get to a place of numbness because so much is happening in the world. We don't have time, or we don't create time for lament.
Yeah.
And I have been talking a lot the last 4 to 6 weeks, I feel like, with my clients of making sure that you have this space to grieve. And a lot of this hasn't been like that they're trying to grieve national things or, what. A lot of my clients have personal griefs happening. And yet what is happening in the world around them has them so emotionally raw, it feels hard to step into their own lament.
So it's the big things at these like sort of national or even international levels that is halting the progress of our personal lament, is what you're saying. Is that right?
And I think part of it is because it's too much and I can't even parse out where is my grief actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Or this tragic thing happened in my life and I was so numb to just being a human that another tragedy happened in someone else's life that I'm having an emotional response to that I feel is quote unquote too big. And it's like, well, sometimes our bodies just need that place to let it out. And so we may think my loss warrants whatever emotion, and we may not be able to access it. And we may need someone else's experience or another story to say, this emotion has to come out. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. It does make a lot of sense. I mean, as a church, we're on Theology of Hustle, so we can talk about that sort of thing. But as a church, I don't think we do this well, probably in general. There are probably places that do it well. Lament's such a major part of kind of the tradition of the Bible, of Christian tradition throughout time. And yet we've sort of moved away from so much of that. Everything for us needs to be jolly and happy and kind of pushing all that stuff to the side, I think. And I think I'll speak for myself. I don't know what it means to actually lament. Like you say the word laments, and I'm like, yeah, that's definitely part of the tradition, something people have done for generations. But what does it look like for Curry or for Curry's community to lament? Like, what would that even look like? How do we lament?
I mean, I don't know theologically what that looks like because I am a therapist. I think sometimes when I think about lament, I think allowing yourself space to grieve, no matter what that looks like. I think culturally, like one of my biggest irritations is, right, like someone loses a partner, a parent, a child, and like corporate bereavement is 3 days typically.
Yeah.
And so that is like an extreme version, but we are given quote unquote time to experience grief. What happens when I don't fit in the box that has been given to me for grief? To me, when I think about lament, I think it's giving myself space to feel the grief in however long that takes, without like trying to meet someone else's expectation of how I should do that. Again, not to like totally romp on social media. We have access to other people's stories and experiences, and you can find dozens, if not hundreds of people who have walked through or are walking through what you've experienced. And we take that experience and we lay it over our own and then judge for ourselves what is okay and not okay, what is appropriate or inappropriate. And like, why are we letting strangers on the internet define that for us?
Well, and even there's become on social media, from what I've seen, like almost this like grief. I don't know. People are building brands like based on grief. And like, so something happens that's like grievous, and their like whole brand becomes like that thing. You know what I mean? And it's almost like for us, grief has become something that like more external than it is something internal. Like it's something to be utilized. I mean, as with social media, like our lives are for influencers, for people who sort of are building a brand, everything's sort of out there. And like, so even grief has been monetized in order to like build up a brand. And so like, we're seeing people's like grieving process in real time, but these are people we don't know. And like, the whole thing just seems messed up. It seems wrong.
Yes. Yes. I think the other side of that is it also happens in people's real life, right? So many people start seeing me because of a loss, a trauma, a grief. And the number of people in their lives who say, why are you still sad?
People say that to clients?
All the time. Why does this bother you? And so much of my work is just affirming, like, I'm giving you space to grieve. Like, and it may be an hour a week. This may be your window for grief. And we process through, but even like, and I know my experience is unique because of the work that I do. I just think we're not giving people space to feel their feelings, and grief makes people really uncomfortable. I would also push back that the church doesn't do joy either. We do platitudes that we pretend are joy. Oh. That may be another podcast.
All right.
But I think it's this idea of like, we like a steady baseline. And if anyone is too up or too down, we are uncomfortable and we can't sit with that.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of emotion talk. I'm sitting here processing my own emotions. I mean, it occurs to me. So something we've already talked about is individualism, and the magic table is anti-individualistic at its core. Because the whole point of the magic table is bringing people together, right?
Yeah.
It also occurs to me that, so our culture is very individualistic. Our culture also is very bad at making any sort of space for anything. We have crammed, I'm speaking for myself here. Yeah. This is I'm predisposed to doing this sort of thing. So I'm critiquing myself and culture at the same time, but we just cram so much stuff into life and everything. You know, it's like we are so bad at setting boundaries, and grief and lament demand space, but it's not, well, I mean, I know you give your clients an hour to do that, but it feels like grief wants to do what grief wants to do. Yep. Would you agree with that? And like you said, there's no time period, but there's like, we can't just like set a timer and be like, I'm going to grieve for 15 minutes and then I move on to my next task. But that's what we tend to do with our lives.
Well, but I don't even think we give it the 15 minutes.
I mean, I agree, but even if we did, it would be,
Yes. Well, I guess my pushback to that is sometimes with my clients, that's what we talk about, is where in your week are you giving yourself space to feel? It doesn't have to be grief. It doesn't have to but in your jam-packed schedule, in all that you have going on, where are you allowing yourself a little bit of space to feel emotion? And how are you bookending bookending that with like things that will kind of regulate you again? A lot, like if I have a hard session with someone and they sob through the whole thing, I don't say, best of luck, see you next week, hope your day's awesome. We talk about, what do you need? How do you sit in this space and like allow this to kind of be for a moment before you say, oh, time with JJ's over. I've got to get back to my life. And so
you go drink water, you eat some food, and you move your body. So you feel the emotions and then you go take care of yourself, right?
And sometimes it's, I mean, right? Again, this is different. Like we're talking theology of hustle, also counseling. Like I have people that sometimes what has happened in session, I'm like, how do you shift the rest of today? What your to-do list looks like, I don't think is appropriate or attainable. So how do you and I use our last 5 minutes together to talk about shifting the rest of today?
Yeah, I think that might be hard for some people to hear. I mean, right? I mean, I have an hour. Now you want me to keep feeling these things that I didn't want to feel in the first place? What does that mean though? Like giving yourself time to feel emotions. Cause I just have this picture of like just sitting in a chair and just like staring at a wall and this like thinking through all the horrible things that you're feeling. Like when you say that, like giving yourself time to feel your emotions, what are you doing?
Well, okay. To me, this is like a couple different things.
Okay.
So like part of it is just therapy. Like I'm asking you questions and I'm giving you space to kind of process and move through.
So I meant in the post therapy, like if I'm giving myself time to lament or something, or just kind of be,
So what
Stop
I'm saying
talking
is,
and JJ, let JJ talk. Okay.
So what is happening in a session? What I have learned from doing this work, I need to talk less.
Okay.
And so even in session, I am modeling for people, like while I can see with my eyeballs they are feeling something, I don't move us forward. I sit with them in that feeling, which I hope is modeling for them. And sometimes we talk about, you can sit in this, right? I'm here with you and we're just going to sit and like kind of let that emotion be. That is a practice that you can take outside of session. It doesn't also just have to be about grief.
Yeah.
You can, you're right. Like anger, excitement,
I mean, it might be nice to sit with some
joy.
Yeah. Emotions that we would normally see as positive, right? When there's no positive or negative emotions. Right?
That is right.
Yeah, okay.
They're all just emotions.
Yes.
So I think that is part of it, is showing people that they can just sit and we don't have to fill space. That is something they can take with them outside of session.
Okay.
I also think, we talk a lot about, one of your favorite things is that we can hold more than one emotion at a time.
That's horrible.
And so a lot of my clients journal because it helps you when you are feeling grief or depression or anxiety. It is easy to feel like that is the only emotion and that is all that you are feeling. I encourage people, and when I say journal, I always want to be clear, it is pen to paper. It is not on your computer. It is not a notes app. Something different happens, pen to paper. But just starting with, I feel, and giving yourself some space to actually acknowledge how you feel. Because sometimes what you're calling grief is grief, but there's anger there too. Sometimes what you're naming grief isn't grief at all. It's feeling disconnected, or sometimes that practice of just in it all out actually moves part of that through for you.
Yeah, that's good. I do have it under good authority that anger is a masking emotion. So, if you are feeling angry, normally there's something, behind that. So, just, I didn't know if you knew that or not, just thought I'd throw that out there. Actually, JJ has taught me everything I ever know about emotions. So, yeah, I think that's good. I'm even thinking of a metaphor for what we're talking about, because we keep talking about how there's so much to take in of the news and of social media. There's all this stuff to take in. And I don't know what the best way to think about, but like eating food and just eating and eating and eating and never expending that food never using that food as energy. Like what happens? And the same thing I feel like happens maybe in this regard, that we're taking in all these things that could cause all these emotions and all these feelings. But if we're never sort of like getting those out, like using them for anything, then they're not we just keep getting more and more full or something. I'm trying not to be gross with the metaphor.
Oh, that's hilarious because my brain immediately went to gross.
Okay. Yeah, well, I did too. I just was trying not to be gross, but.
Well, I'm just going to say,
okay,
you eat that much and it's going to come out.
Right.
It is the same though with your emotion.
Yeah.
If you were taking all of this stuff in,
yeah,
it's going to come out. Whether you're short with your partner, you're angry at your kids, you yell at a coworker, you are bananas in traffic. So
people are out of their minds in traffic. Driving has got significantly worse since the pandemic. I think that's a fact.
Or we're teaching someone to drive and it's really terrifying to think like the world is bananas and I trust you and it's crazy.
Man.
I just think like this is all going to go somewhere, right? You cannot just be inundated with bad news all the time and it doesn't come out of you in some way. And so how are you working to like put boundaries around that? So is it you need to ingest less stuff? Is it I am feeling icky with all that I have ingested? I need to go for a walk. I need to talk to someone else. I have been watching videos of our children from when they were tiny. It brings so much joy. Like this is not like you got to plan a trip and you need to go to Disney World and that'll make everything fine. Stop it. I just think there is we can find joy. We can be proactive. We just have to remember that we can.
Yeah. We get stuck, don't we? I get stuck all the time, I feel like. And you just get trapped in this sort of hamster wheel of your brain. And then what you do is the hamster wheel of your brain won't stop. So you go and consume more of whatever it is, media, something different. And then you're like, why am I feeling dysregulated? So you're like, I'm going to go back. You know what I mean? You keep going back to these things. And I think like if we're going back to that metaphor, sort of exercising those emotions in some way, getting that stuff out. I mean, community is a big part of that. And like you said, journaling. Are there other ways in which you would talk about some of that?
So I often tell my clients when they are in a place that feels stable, calm, healthy, how are they making a list of 3 to 5 things that helps them cope? Right? So this isn't prescriptive. This isn't me telling you what to do. It's you using your own skills and self-awareness. And then where do you put that list? On your fridge, on your bathroom mirror, so that when you get spinny and your brain, right? Like when we're talking about this overwhelm of everything that we're experiencing in the world, our lid is flipped. We lose the ability to engage with our thinking brain.
Yeah.
So we can't access what are my good coping skills? How do I help myself deal with this?
Right.
We do have the ability to say, I took past me took care of me in this moment, and I actually have a list, and that's what I'm going to go to, and I'm going to go down that list until I feel better.
Proactive self-care. That's what that sounds like.
Proactive self-care. It is proactive self-care.
And having it, I think, listed out probably somewhere seems like the best, like sticky note on the computer or like you said, mirror, something that you look at. That is a really helpful thing. What would be some examples of coping skills? Because I feel like, we talked about this too. My natural inclination is to do a little retail therapy, but engage in binge watching or, there's all these kind of coping skills that feel good in the moment, but then afterwards you're like, yeah, that didn't actually help. That felt good. It gave me a little bit of that dopamine hit, but isn't long term. So what are some good examples of long term coping skills?
I think deep breathing or stretching.
Okay.
You can Google deep breathing and just like, again, that giving yourself space to just take some deep breaths and see how that regulates your body. Sometimes it's like laying on the floor, putting your hands on your belly and just focusing on my hands are going up and my hands are coming back down. Like you may be at a place that like that actually regulates your body. And I think sometimes I've actually talked to a couple of clients in the last few weeks about like, I don't get the deep breathing thing. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's sold to you as like, take 3 deep breaths and like, it's magical. Like you may need to spend like 3 to 5 minutes just kind of focusing on your breath or doing some relaxation work of like, I'm, my shoulders are relaxing. I'm like, whatever that is for you, but it is not a like, take 3 deep breaths and life is magical.
But that's what you could get on Google, right? There's all these like, if you're sitting at your desk, and feeling stressed out, breathe deeply 4.5 times and you'll be back to normal.
So Google, what is box breathing? Okay. What is square breathing? I'm not thinking of my other, that could point you in a better direction. Sure. I also tell people, try what works for you. Yeah. Like even your therapist can recommend something. And I tell my people, we're adding tools to the toolbox, right? You may come back next week and be like, hey, JJ, that was hot garbage. Let's try something else. Or, hey, that was really helpful. I'm adding this tool to my toolbox.
Or this tool used to work. It doesn't work anymore. How do I get new tools, right? Yep. These tools are ever changing. What's working in one season is always changing. Yeah.
I think anything that is grounding, being barefoot outside, walking in your grass, listening to birds, smelling someone's, barbecue or cut grass, like noticing, using your senses to notice what's around you really helps ground you and kind of like bring you back to the moment. I think knowing who you can call, who will provide you what you need. It's another thing that I work with my clients on and we've talked about this in different contexts before, but, if I call my friend, is she going to listen in the way that I need or is she going to try to fix it?
Yeah.
If I know she's going to fix it and I don't want it fixed, don't call her.
She's just going to make you more mad.
Right?
Yeah.
And so some of it, again, it goes back to this list of if I'm feeling X way, this is who I call. And so your coping list may be more than one person because you may have different people in your life who meet different needs.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Hey, y'all, it is a crazy world out there. Can we agree to that? And like, stuff is not easy. Because life is not easy. People act like it's easy, and it's just not. And I just want to like really normalize all of this for everybody. Like if you're in grief, if you're struggling, like I get it. It's part of what's going on right now. And that a lot of people are struggling with that. And like, how do we take proactive steps to like help ourselves to improve our mental health? See a therapist if need be, all of the things. Is that?
Yes. And I think also there are a lot of people who are just feeling that decision fatigue.
Yeah.
And so I hope like if you are not at a place that you're like, I can't even list 3 things, that you would take some suggestion here, even if you're like, I would like to go to therapy, but I don't want to do the work to find a therapist. Reach out, see what we can do.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, if you have decision fatigue and you want to put up a little note, drink water.
Yeah.
On that little note.
Sleep.
Sleep. Yes. Yeah. And we can have a whole other social media and that type conversation at some points as well here. So That's good. Once again, thanks for joining us at the magic table. I feel like we solved all of the world's problems today.
If only it were that easy.
Okay. We'll see you next time at the magic table.